The United States government this morning releasing documents they seized in last year's raid on the bin Laden compound. The raid in which bin Laden, of course, was killed. This morning we are getting our first look at some of these documents, what we are learning from them. Siobhan Gorman, our intelligence reporter in D.C., is with us. Siobhan, what's the big takeaway from these documents so far?
Well, the big takeaway seems to be that there was actually quite a bit of tension between bin Laden and sort of his leadership of al-Qaeda in Pakistan and these so-called affiliates that have sprouted up around the world, particularly in Yemen. What's a little bit ironic about it is that since bin Laden's death, those affiliates have actually represented al-Qaeda's greatest strength. But during the time that bin Laden was leading the organization, he had a sort of a troubled relationship with his affiliates because, in part, he didn't feel like he could control them all that well.
So Siobhan, I mean, obviously bin Laden was killed last year. Is there anything really that we're learning effectively about al-Qaeda that we didn't know before? I mean, I think most Americans probably think that it is a weekend operation, still have these affiliates. Are we learning anything new about the capabilities of al-Qaeda?
Nothing really new about the capabilities of al-Qaeda, especially because that's obviously evolved in the last year or so. In fact, we hear from our sources that the al-Qaeda branch in Yemen has actually strengthened over the last 6 months or so. What the documents really give you is a little bit more of an inside look at the thinking of the top al-Qaeda leaders, including Osama bin Laden, from the period that the documents cover, which is 2006 to 2011. So it includes some interesting elements such as media planning efforts for the 10th anniversary of 9/11.
Oh, God. Now, bin Laden obviously was isolated in his compound, and it's interesting, some of the documents talk about how there was a debate among the leadership how to handle these affiliates. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah, there was a lot of disagreement. Some people felt that they needed to completely disassociate themselves from the affiliates, saying, you know, that we're not responsible for anything that they do. Others suggested actually a closer embrace of the affiliates, and bin Laden proposed a sort of third way, which was keeping the lines of communication open, but not formally granting membership, so to speak. And in fact, one of the things that we see in one of the documents that was released was a request on the part of al-Shabaab, which is a Somali militant group that was seeking sort of bin Laden's stamp of approval and kind of membership to al-Qaeda. And bin Laden said, you know, thank you very much for your support, but, you know, essentially we're not going to grant you membership. And interestingly, this group, al-Shabaab, kind of formally became an al-Qaeda affiliate after bin Laden's death.
Now, Siobhan, have these emails, have these documents helped us identify any new al-Qaeda participants, or are these people that we've already known about? Is this helping us to find al-Qaeda?
Well, I mean, it helps you better understand who is communicating with whom and who al-Qaeda saw as its sort of top leaders. They aren't new names for anyone who's been following the group. It's people like bin Laden, this Atiya Abd al-Rahman, who is not necessarily a household name, but was known as sort of al-Qaeda's operations chief. One thing the documents show is actually that bin Laden had quite a close relationship with Atiya, and some experts wonder whether actually that relationship was closer with Atiya than it was with his number two, Ayman al-Zawahiri. So that's sort of an interesting element to it. However, Atiya was killed last August, a few months after bin Laden was killed in the raid, and Zawahiri is now the chief of al-Qaeda.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Siobhan, thanks a lot. Listen, everyone, stay logged on to WSJ.com. Stay logged on to WSJ Live. We'll have more on that story, obviously.